The mini PCs just keep getting more exciting. I've got today the latest entrant from GEEKOM. This is their A5 Pro 2026, a Ryzen powered teeny tiny mini PC that packs a serious punch. In this video, we'll talk about what the CPU performance from this guy is. We'll talk about the iGPU performance and what kind of usability cases, they're touting this PC for. And of course, if you're looking for that buying decision clarity, if you're not sure if you should buy, wait, or skip on this device, stay tuned till the end to hear my verdict. And we'll talk about whether or not the claims that GEEKOM is making hold true and whether this device is worth getting. Let's jump right in. In the box here, you'll get the GEEKOM mini PC itself up front and center. Once you take out the actual rest of the packaging, you get a nice thank you card here and a nice handwritten thank you note in the actual packaging. A nice touch. We have a manual here which shows you setup guide, a standard USB or a standard power cable, excuse me. We have also here a HDMI 2.0B cable. Nice of them to include that for connectivity. We have some screws here for mounting using the included VESA mount plate to hide this behind a monitor, and finally the VESA mount plate itself, which can be actually attached to this and to the back of a monitor itself, and finally a tiny barrel pin power plug and power adapter for this PC. And that's all you get in the box. And here's a little bit of ASMR for you guys as I unwrap the actual packaging off of the mini PC here to get this out and up on my desk ready for review. Alright, let's talk about the build quality here. So first thing you'll notice is when you put it on your desk is how minuscule this thing is. This thing is absolutely tiny. We'll look at the size comparison in just a moment here. But also the nice thing about it is whatever position you put it in, it can basically slide in anywhere on your desktop. So if you have a small desk or if you're space constrained, mini PC is definitely the way to go. I'm loving the mini PC genre. I think this is a natural evolution of desktop PCs. And I'm trying to move away entirely from desktop PCs in the very near future. So that said, let's look at the port combination here. You get two USB-A ports with 10 gigabit speeds on the front and a headphone, microphone, combo jack, and a power button, though this one does not have a fingerprint reader, which is offered on other GEEKOM models. On the side of the device here, the left side, you have an SD card reader. This is not UHS 1 or 2, just a pretty standard SD card reader. Will give you about 90 megabytes per second in terms of copy speeds. On the rear, you have lots of ports, two HDMIs 2.0, two USB Type-Cs with alt mode out, again 10 gigabits per second, and two additional USBs, one for your peripheral and one for your mouse, and a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. And on the right hand side, just a nice perforated metal for ventilation to allow cooling and airflow here, as this is a very compact unit and you need to have circulation. All right, the top of this is just a very nice brushed aluminum look here with a GEEKOM label. Nothing else snazzy here. It's very quiet, very discreet, and can fit in pretty much any kind of environment. And finally, on the bottom of the device here, we have a panel with 4 rubber feet, which if removed can also be used to mount this thing using the included VESA mount to the rear of a monitor to keep really everything out of the way and just very discreet and a nice clean desk space. 425 grams weight here on the GEEKOM mini PC. And if we look at it in, imperial units here, just slightly over a pound and 15 ounces here. Not going to break the back nor break the bank, which is the nice thing that I like about this mini PC. A quick peek into the BIOS, accessed using the F7 key, shows us that it's a pretty simple BIOS here, although there is some decent configuration options available under security. You have secure boot, you can manage your keys, you can also set an administrator password, and of course you've got all of the different device control here, including all of the onboard devices, boot options, and things of that nature. And of course you can save and exit your settings. After that, just a quick press of the mouse button will get you through the actual initial setup screens, which walks you through the Windows setup here. Pretty typical of what you would see on any laptop or desktop PC that you're getting for the first time. So that process was pretty simple, and I found it to be pretty easy to go through. It wasn't as many screens as I would have expected. And finally, once we booted to the desktop, I was really surprised to know that there's almost no bloatware whatsoever out of the box on this thing. So great job on that, GEEKOM. I think that's very well done, and it is commendable here. A very nice, clean, and a very a lightweight system right out of the box. And of course, we looked at the Windows Power Mode here. By default, it was set to balance, so I hopped in here and quickly toggled that over to the performance mode, since this is intended to be a mini PC as a desktop replacement, so I wanted to get the best possible performance out of this device. All right, let's talk about the CPU. So this is powered by a Ryzen Zen 3 7530U CPU. That is a 15-watt class ultrabook part. That means this thing is going to run nice and cool, but give you, pretty good performance overall. That 6-core, 12-thread CPU is going to be plenty for most of the things you're going to do on a day-to-day basis, and for the average mainstream user. You can do a little bit of everything without having to worry about performance, but also don't need to spend, loads of cash to get the latest and greatest and not even utilize that performance. And GEEKOM here has optimized this with DDR4 RAM to keep the price low, and of course paired this with a PCIe Gen 3 SSD again to reduce the cost, since memory and storage pricing right now in the current climate is absolutely insane. That's how you're going to get plenty of performance here on day-to-day usage. And from the CPU perspective, I don't think you really have anything to complain about unless you're really looking to push LLMs. You won't be able to do that here because you don't have an NPU, nor do you have all those cores at very high clock rates to be able to run 8, 16, or even 32 cores to run parallel workloads. But overall performance is sufficient, as aimed and targeted at mainstream everyday users. The choice of SSD used in the GEEKOM A5 2026 is a 1TB drive paired with that 16 gigs of RAM. We can see here that the PCIe Gen3 speeds, we're getting 3700 megabytes and 3400 megabytes on the read and write speeds, pretty much up there with the actual maximum for the standard. Now they've traded off, instead of PCIe Gen4 or a Gen5 SSD, with a more Gen3 speeds. Not something that you would notice in daily use unless you're actually transferring lots of performance or doing very high data throughput, such as AI or databases or anything of the sort. So a good trade-off, considering the market right now for storage and memory prices are quite insane due to the shortages. So I think this is a good trade-off they've made to keep costs down overall. Now, if we swap over to the SD card here, we can see that copy speeds are actually pretty good. There isn't a mention here of UHS 1 or 2 as far as the standards that's supported, nor any kind of SD Express, but overall performance is pretty good using a UHS V30 SD card. And finally, performance on the 2.5 gigabyte or gigabit per second Ethernet card here is actually pretty good. With wired connects, I was able to copy from my NAS storage about 10 gigabyte file roughly under 1 minute. So overall, very good performance, what you would expect. And I also did some iGPU testing here. So this thing does not have discrete graphics, as you'd imagine in this size here. It uses Radeon integrated graphics with only 512 megabytes of dedicated VRAM. So we can see here that I was actually running Passmark. Things do render. It does have the ability to do 3D work. So if you're actually working perhaps professionally, you can actually get that done using this device here. However, you'll need to keep expectations in check and ensure that whatever workload you're going to be putting on this mini PC can fit into the actual VRAM requirement. That said, I also did some game testing here. So here is CS2, Counter-Strike 2, and I'm running through here just a match here. Now this was run at 1200p, so just a little high above 1080p here, with everything set to low, and of course fidelity effects was set to performance, so we can get some extra performance boost there as well. So with that, you can see they're getting right around 30 FPS, not the highest frame rate that you want to have. But anyway, that is what it is. And I also tested with the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. You can see here that this is actually not really playable at this frame rate. Of course, it's a much more demanding game. Even on the lowest setting, as you can see here, at only 900p, I was only getting about 20, maybe 19 frames per second. So you need to temper your expectations when you understand what you can game. Since GEEKOM, claims that this is actually compatible with Linux, so I did run a test here. I'm using a USB drive installed with 25.10 version of Ubuntu. That is the latest version out. We're still just a little bit away from 26.04. Hence, I was able to use this USB drive to boot into the system. And after booting, I went through the initial setup screen here to get to the desktop and using the try mode. So I have not installed this natively onto the device, but just testing it from the USB Live CD. And I was able to check whether everything is working here. So Wi-Fi was initially working. I could see the networks, but after they started to disappear for some reason. Bluetooth was working. Bluetooth was detecting the device as well. Ethernet connection was working. I could open up Firefox, start browsing around the internet. Audio was working as well, and I could see all of my components were detected correctly. I'm not sure what the issue was with Wi-Fi here, but just something to report. Live as what I saw. With your experience, it's going to be quite similar. I also did some testing with latency mod for those of you who do audio work, DJ work, or any kind of audio production and things of that nature. As you can see here, the test started out good and I was quite hopeful until, a few minutes in here, when I ran this test several times, 5 times actually, to make sure I wasn't missing anything. All my drivers were updated and everything was up to date, but I was not able to get this to perform amiably. So if you're looking to get this device for audio work and DJ or audio production, this is something you'll need to keep in mind and consider. Looking at the thermal performance of this and the fan noise, we need to first keep in mind that this is a 15 watt class CPU slash GPU. The 7530U from AMD is a 15 watt laptop ultrabook style part. That means it's not going to really actually generate a lot of heat, even in running in maximum performance scenarios such as Cinebench or using Furmark. Here you also see in the moment here Prime 95. I never saw the temperatures really exceed beyond 60 degrees in many cases. In fact, the peak temperature that I saw on this actual device was 63 degrees or 64 degrees, excuse me, and that happened when I was pushing both CPU and GPU pretty much to their limits. It never got close to any thermal junction temperatures or any throttling issues whatsoever, so you're going to be able to extract the full performance from this mini PC. And if you see here running Prime 95 with all cores pinned at 100% usage, we're actually seeing that this thing is still nice and cool to the touch, right around 60 degrees there. In fact, just slightly under 60 degrees, so no issues with heat, thermal or noise. And of course, if you look at the actual temperatures across the device itself, because it's a 15 watt CPU slash GPU combo, and it has fans that are around 38 decibels, they're almost inaudible in many cases. Just as GEEKOM claims, you can see here that temperatures across the device are in the 30s. So mounting this behind a monitor will not present any issues. Verdict time. Let's talk about my time with the A5 Pro 2026 from GEEKOM. All right, let's address the elephant in the room first and foremost. GEEKOM claims that this device will give you livability and usability for 5 years without spending on many different mini PCs. Now, let's put that into context. Most mini PCs, sell around the $300 price point, and they are underpowered with Celeron processors, perhaps 8 gigabytes RAM. If you're lucky, you'll get maybe 16 gigabytes of RAM on a deal, but that Celeron processor is going to be very underpowered. It's not going to be able to do very much, and the iGPUs on those are just, simply pathetic. So what that means is if over 5 years, you may end up buying 2 or 3 of those as new versions, new iterations of Celeron processors come out, but you're still going to have a very sluggish and slow experience. It's not really going to be a full-featured mini PC that can do pretty much a little bit of everything that you need in your daily life for the average user. So that said, if you're looking to buy into the mini PC ecosystem, you want to replace your old clunky desktop, or if you have something that's many years old, you want to get into this space and you want to have something that's a little bit more tidy now that we have this form factor, and this form factor and category is definitely growing. So you should, keep an eye on this at the very least. Then this can be a good product for you. Now, I know there's always compromises in every product, but I believe GEEKOM has really honed in on the actual compromises that should have been made and done right by this mini PC. So the CPU choice, the RAM choice, the storage choice, everything has been optimized for livability and usability for the average user that's buying a mini PC for the long haul. That said, if you're looking to buy a mini PC, this is going to be a great option for you. I would definitely say it's a buy. If you're not sure about mini PCs, or you want to see a little bit more how this category progresses, it's not just another fad like you saw with 3D TVs, for example, then I think you don't really have to worry much. But of course, you can choose to wait it out. Or if you're looking for something that's a little bit more beefier in terms of specs from GEEKOM, you can also check out their website. They have a lineup of models which will give you exactly what you're looking for as well. This is an entry-level PC that is, pretty much for the mainstream and for the everyday average user that does a little bit of everything, a little bit of photo retouching, a little bit of video editing for their home videos and their vacation films, a little bit of coding on the side, and so on and so forth. Lots of spreadsheet work, maintaining your home budgets and that and whatnot. Now, if you are a PC lover and a PC diehard, you need to have that graphics power because you're a renderer, you're an artist, you're an architect, or you're just a gamer and you love to game at very high FPS, competitive e-gamer perhaps, then this is going to be a skip for you. You'll know why, because this is just including an iGPU at 15 watts of power. You're going to be akin to what you're going to get on a PC handheld experience, roughly, give or take. All right, that's my thoughts on the mini PC. GEEKOM has a winner here with the A5 Pro 2026, but just make sure that you understand what it is that you're buying into. With each product, there's always certain decisions and certain cuts that have to be made. GEEKOM has made the right decisions here, and I want you to understand those decisions, as I've just stated, before you invest in this mini PC. All right, if you're looking to purchase, there's links in the description below. Do check them out. They are affiliate links. They help the channel, but at no extra cost to you. Thanks very much for watching. And also let me know in the comments below, are you getting into the mini PC space? Do you have mini PCs already? You're looking to buy one soon? What do you think about the GEEKOM mini PC, the A5 Pro? Or are you interested in me to do more coverage on this PC? I can do a little series. If you're interested, we can evaluate things further and in depth. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this category, as I'm looking to embellish this category category and content in this category on my channel. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.